Hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Jeffries. Welcome to Conversations That Heal podcast. The purpose of this podcast is for everyday people to talk to extraordinary everyday people to get what they need to heal in real time. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Chyna. Chyna is the founder of Preserving Peace. One of the things that stood out about Chyna is her journey is deeply rooted in healing, authenticity, and self-love. Like I say on this podcast, no one could tell your story like you can.
Hi, all. Thank you, Stephanie, for having me. I like to call myself a living creative expression. My journey has not been what that I would say many have traveled. I think that God has brought me through so many different things in my life to get me to this point. Many versions of myself that I would definitely say, but like, how did you get there? Like, how did you become all of those things? So I'm super grateful to be here and to share my story today.
That is interesting that you say that, because what I was going to ask you is what caused you to step into this work? When you hear them, they actually mirror each other. It's like a flowing system. So what happened that made you step into this life?
I would definitely say that my journey into this work has definitely been very personal. It became something that like I really had to do for self before I was able to share with others. I didn't wake up one day and be like, I'm going to guide people through healing. I really had to navigate my own. I had to navigate my own level of things first. And that just was like experiencing grief and loss and moments where I really felt disconnected from myself, my purpose, and even my own voice. There was so many seasons of unraveling and being in places where I had to be led back to my own movement, my own sound, my own self-exploration as coming home to myself. And some of that was just like the relationship with my parents and relationships with others, whether it be platonic or whether it be romantic. And all of those things was just like healing wasn't about me really. It was about reclaiming myself through the process. And in that, it was just like, oh my God, like I really would love to be able to offer this. First, it started with children because I was like going to the Boys and Girls Club when I was younger. And that was a place that was safe for me and my siblings while my mother and my dad were at work. And I was just like, how important was that to be able to have a foundation that was holding space for children to be exposed to so many different cultural aspects and things like that. And I was just like, we need that. I needed that. I want this to be a continuation for children all over the world or in our communities, right? And then as I got older and experiencing myself through sisterhood and experiencing other women through the church or just in the community, it was just like, okay, I want to be able to offer to women what I wish I had when I was learning how to hold myself, right? Spaces of softness, spaces of truth, and deep remembering. Like it was in this work, it's allowed me to see what it feels like to be seen, to be able to be in a space with other women where we can exhale, where we can trust ourselves, where we can trust each other, where we can know that we're worthy of the healing and the joy and the fullness just as we are and nothing else. And all of those things just led me to be right where I am.
It's interesting that you say that, right? Because so often what I find is that people that heal and they're taking the things that they've taught themselves or the things that they've learned along the way. One of the reasons why they do that, because their biggest goal is to be what they didn't have or to be what they needed. And with you wearing so many hats, right? And I think that, like I said before, I think that they intertwine. I think that they work together well, because not everybody, if I'm not pregnant, I don't need a doula, but it doesn't mean that I won't need yoga. And if I'm not really into yoga, it doesn't mean that I won't need a coach. And if I don't do that, so I think a lot of them build on top of each other. What are some of the ways that you help women connect back to who they are?
Well, I would say, like, at the heart of all of those things, there's one mission. And that is just simply being able to guide women back to themselves. Because every offering that I share, whether it be music, whether it be movement, sound healing, or just holding space in postpartum care, is really rooted in the belief that our bodies and our spirits already know what we need. We just need the space to listen. So it's just so all the times when we're going to other people for ourselves, it's like nobody can tell you about you, but the Most High and yourself. So it's just like going to everybody else and playing telephone and waiting for somebody to give you the answers. Once that we know that we can really just sit down and listen to our own intuition, it'll lead us there. So like even with postpartum doula, like I help women navigate one of the most sacred yet vulnerable transition of their lives, reminding them that they deserve to be nurtured as they are nurturing, as they are being a vessel that just brought life into this world. As a yoga teacher, I invite women to move through their emotions, to feel where energy is stored in their bodies, and to reclaim the sense of empowerment and embodiment. Because, especially as young girls, all the little narratives that we've learned about our bodies, right? Whether
Mhm.
and how we're supposed to shun ourselves and hide and all these different things. So it's just like, how do we step into empowerment? How do we reclaim our bodies, no matter the size, right? Like, not just one way, but all of our bodies.
Right.
That's very important to me. And then sound healing and singing, I use vibration in my voice to create resonance through sound and to soothe our nervous system and help women release what they've been holding. That's the biggest thing. Like, how can we put it? When Erica Badu was like, "Bag lady, put it down." Like, how can
Yeah,
we?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right? Because lyrics, they really mean so much when we really take the
Mhm.
moment to listen. And then as a wellness coach, I hold space for women to unravel, to rebuild, to step into their most authentic expression. So all of these roles all thread together, and they all
Yes.
lead into spaces for women to breathe, to process, to soften, and to return home to themselves. And it's not about fixing anyone, because that's not what I do, and I don't heal anyone
Right.
either. I
Right.
remind I remind women that they are their own medicine woman and that they heal themselves. That's ultimately, nobody's coming to save us. So we have to have that understanding that I am the only one that can heal me from whatever it is that I've experienced. And I'm already whole. So I'm not fixing anything. I'm just simply remembering who I am.
One of the biggest things that we can do is rediscover ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We can rediscover who we are because so often we're wrapped up in the title of mom and sister and
Yeah.
niece and cousin and boss, and in this season where everybody's trying to be a bad bee, or they're trying to be a bad girl, or they're trying to be a boss, there's a softness that is
Mm,
lost in that. There is a femininity that's lost in that. There is something that is lost and that is naturally who we are, right? And how we come back to ourselves. And I find that there's a lot of people that hide behind this facade because they feel there's a shame attached to who they really are. But
yeah.
and we've seen in so many areas and so many lives, and we've heard people say, don't be vulnerable. That's a sign of weakness. But if I could just teach people that vulnerability is the biggest strength
Mhm.
that you have. And if you can step into your shame, then it can't control you. So I think that having a company that or being able to do that and navigate people through
Mhm.
that, I think that's very powerful because it is very important to understand that no, I don't heal you, but I
Mhm.
do give you the tools that you need to do to guide you back to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on something that you just said. I think when it comes to feelings like shame and embarrassment and envy and jealousy, like, all of these
Mhm.
things are seem to be somewhat taboo, right? Or things that we should be ashamed of. So we don't talk
Mhm.
about them. So I always really advocate on speak your truth. Like, it may not be the prettiest thing, and it may not be
Mhm.
something that you want to necessarily hear come out of your mouth, because sometimes it's just like when we say the thing like, "Oh my, did I say that? Do I really feel that
Yeah.
way?" And it's
I'm
just like,
like,
and if you
wait,
do, right?
what? Yeah.
Was I really jealous about this thing? About something that somebody had that I wanted and I felt I was more deserving of? It's a human feeling. So the moment
Mhm.
that we give ourselves permission to feel the thing, because what we're doing with the root of it is we run from it. So we run from the feeling that comes up, which puts us deeper into the feeling. So the shame. So now we're guilting ourselves and we feel more embarrassed. So we hide and we isolate. And it's just, no, there's no freedom there. We just have to be vocal about our truth, because the moment that we own it, whatever that darkness looks like, because I'm sure that people will look at me now and be like, she ain't always been, and I haven't.
Right.
But
Right.
nothing that you can do with my truth. There's nothing that you can
Yeah.
do with my, because my story empowers not only myself, but other women who've also been just like me.
And even as I hear you talk, right, there are things that come to mind. There are
Mhm.
situations that come to mind where I didn't stand in my truth and I was miserable because
Yes.
I let someone else determine what the truth was for me. So I think having someone that in a world where it's chaotic right now, and in a world where women are afraid to be soft, I think finding someone that holds the space for you and
Mhm.
that allows you to just be it, whatever that is. When
Mhm.
you find someone that's willing to hold a space for you, I think that is such a beautiful thing. What does preserving peace mean and how did it come to life?
So preserving peace means exactly what it is. preserving peace. People were like,
Yes.
it's not a very in-depth thing,
You're like, no, girl, it ain't nothing big. It is what it is.
it's
Right, right,
preserving
right.
peace, it's a commitment, it's a way of being, it's a sacred
Hmm.
intention. It really started off for me as a personal vow. I was in a
Hmm.
place where God was literally ripping me from things that were comfortable for me, right? Uprooting me from places that he was like, you've outgrown these places. It's time for you to
Hmm.
go. And what does it look like for you to create boundaries, China? What does it look like for you to say no? What does it look like for you to start saying yes to yourself? Because I've spent so much time pouring into others, sacrificing my own well being, been in ways that have left me depleted. And I had to learn that peace isn't something that we stumble upon, because people just like, well, I found my peace. Well, how? Can you tell me how you found it? Can
Right.
you lead me the way to how you found your peace, right? But it's really something that we intentionally have to protect, nourish, and uphold. And so from that, for me, it was just like I knew that I wanted to create spaces for women where they could do the same thing, because it's just I can't tell you your path, right? Like
Right.
even the things that I do that have led me to be in a space where I am healing, that may not work for you, right? So it's just, but
Right.
I can do
Right.
my very best, which is one of my biggest things is about like brave spaces. I know that we're all talking about like safe spaces, which is beautiful
Hmm.
to say, but I can't guarantee you that, right? Because if you don't feel
Right.
safe in your own body, then you can go into any place, no matter how pleasant they are, no how many candles is lit and incense is burning and lights is dim, you may not feel safe because it can trigger an experience that you may have had. But if you have learned
Yes.
to be safe in your own body, right? And knowing that you
Hmm.
trust yourself enough to know that I know that whatever room it is that I go in, if I am triggered, if it does feel unsafe, I know that I can remove me, that I can protect me. So I create spaces where women can come in brave, right? Bold,
Hmm.
brave in themselves. And when they feel brave and when they feel safe in themselves, then the safeness of the space is created. And
Right.
then the
Right.
idea of it being like, spaces where peace isn't just an idea, but it's a practice, right? It's a
Hmm.
place where healing isn't just about surviving, but also reclaiming our joy and our ease and softness as our birthright. So, preserving peace came to life as a sanctuary for women, whether it was a form of retreats, sister circles, sound healing, or just a reminder that you are allowed to just simply choose yourself. And that's honoring the sacredness within us and recognizing that peace is something that we cultivate. It's not something that we wait for. Just with anything, I'm gonna wait till I'm ready. When will that be? Right? Like,
Right.
will you be able
Right.
to? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
No, 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 no. Because I think
Oh,
that no, I was just saying, yeah, right. I was saying you're right because so many times we wait for this perfect situation, not understanding that we have to create them, right?
yeah.
And I pastor that I listen to, Pastor Mike Jr. I listen to him all the time, and one this
Yeah.
Pastor Mike is Pastor Mike the man,
Yeah.
right? But one of
Yeah.
the things that he says is you're waiting on God and God waiting on you. He
Waiting on
already
you.
did what he already gave you what you needed
He's like,
to do what it is you need to do. So when you talk
yeah,
about that, I feel convicted, right? We're gonna talk
yeah,
about that after this is over. But no, I do. I feel because no, there are times where I haven't went in brave,
yeah, yeah.
right? I haven't gone in brave. I've been waiting for a safe space to be created for me to go in, not realizing that the safety is internal. What I'm hearing you say is the goal is to be anywhere doing anything and be safe internally,
Absolutely.
safe
Absolutely.
within yourself. Because if not, you're going to find yourself running from place to place to place looking for this safety when if you can just stand and just be.
If you can just stand and be in your own body. And a lot of times that's what we're running from. So it's like when we start pointing the finger and it's just, well, everybody did this. And it's just, well, what can we do for self? Like, I didn't step into this work because I had all the answers. I
Right.
stepped into it because I too, I had to learn how to hold myself through my own unraveling, through my own
Right.
loss, through my own transformation, because there were many times where I was thinking that somebody else was going to be able to hold me, like thinking, like I'm waiting for my mother. Like I'm waiting for her to, you gonna hold me? I'm waiting for my daddy. You gonna get out of jail? I need you to do this so I can heal. They can't do it for you. So the moment that we're just like, okay, self, remembering, tending to your own garden. I always say we are gardens.
Hmm.
We are gardens. So the same way that you would tend to that soil and you would pull out them weeds, it's the same thing that you got to do with you, baby. Water it, water it.
Yeah.
Take care of your garden. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned your mom and your dad because one of the
Mm,
things that we talked about was healing a parental wound.
yeah,
When you and I had the conversation, China, I have parental wounds, right? But I
yeah.
realized that just in conversation, that there are so many women in particular are
Mm,
dealing with mother wounds. I
mhm,
knew what it was, but then I've heard it come up so many times since our initial phone call. I've
mhm.
heard so many people say that. And so just walk me through healing from that. Like,
Yeah.
how did you heal from that? And what does that look like?
Girl, healing from both my mother and my father wound has been one of the deepest and most transformative journeys of my life. They shaped the way that I saw safety, the way that I saw love, my sense of belonging from a very early age. My father has been absent my entire life. And growing up, I experienced the absence of him, not just physically, but emotionally, all the things. And that created a very deep longing in me. Like I wanted him. And I felt like there was something about that relationship that would alter my life. I was like, well, if he was
Right.
present, my life would look this way, right? I had this subconscious belief that I had to earn love, I had to prove my worth, or I had to perform to be chosen. And there was a
Right.
lot of ways where, because of the abandonment, within that relationship, I became very hyper independent in some ways and deeply fearful of abandonment in others. So it was
Yes.
like,
No,
it
listen. Whew.
was a scale
Okay.
of each
Yes.
side, right? It was a scale of each side. And I really was seeking validation in places that can never truly fill that void. And that showed up in relationships with men for me, almost, prototypes of him. And and it got scary, once you come into awareness of self and it's like,
Yeah.
no, actually, never mind, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I was just joking. I was just joking.
I don't want nobody like my daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is my biological father that I'm speaking of,
Yes.
because I will point to talk about my stepdad in a point because he's been present in my life. But yes, but my mother wound showed up so differently because my mother and I have always had a complicated relationship. I have been out of my mother's home since I was 12 years old. And what I've learned as I've gotten older, that it wasn't just about my relationship with my mother, but it was really the generational weight that she carried, right? The unspoken grief, the sacrifices, the way that she had to survive, because my mother had me at 15. She had me at
Oh.
15, and my grandmother died literally a month later. She died a month later, so there was a lot of growing up that we did together.
Mhm.
And there was, a lack of nurturing that I didn't receive, the idea of being strong and having to figure it all out on your own and doing it all, like I do it all. And, all these different, just like stereotypes and narratives that were just there. And the silence, right? Like that we're not having those, not
Mhm.
there, like the lack of intelligence and maturity and like all those different things. So, and like I said, I left my mother's home when I was 12. And so my grandmother raised me from 13 on up. And then there was another set of mother wounds there, because we were learning a different level of our relationship, like it was,
Right.
you got godparents, they come and visit, they spend time with you, they love you, all those different things. But now I'm in your home and I'm also a
Right.
product of my home, right? And
Right.
nobody's therapy is not a thing because we at that time it was Black people's therapy is for crazy people, and I ain't crazy,
And what
um,
what
right.
happens in this house stays in this
It's
house.
what happens in this house stays in this house. So
Mhm.
I truly believe that as I was growing up and in all of those, I was the adult, right? I was having adult conversations that a girl my age shouldn't have been having. I was
Right.
exposed to things that I shouldn't have been exposed to. And so it took a lot for me to get to a place of, one, the biggest thing was blame, because I
Right.
was like, y'all did this to me. So the way that I
Mhm.
turned out, and the things that I'm now experiencing in my relationships is because of your lack of being able to do X, Y, and Z. And what I had to realize were they were all children, right? Like children.
I'm sorry, because I don't mean to cut you off,
Okay.
but one of the things that I'm gonna tell you how pivotal this time is.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished my dissertation, and my topic is the
Mm,
silent legacy,
mm,
generational trauma passed from mothers to daughter in the Black community. So when you say that, I know exactly what you're talking about because those wounds show up, and only thing that they're doing is they're doing what they were taught.
that's it. That's
They're
it.
doing what they were taught, and then we don't realize because we don't give our parents credit that they were children having children.
One of the biggest things that I've actually come into realization lately is just I'm breaking the generational curse of avoidance, because my
Mm,
great grandmother was addicted to alcohol. My grandmother was
mhm.
addicted to coke. And My mom, I can't speak on any addictions in her, but definitely the addiction I feel of silence, where it's just like, I'm not touching that. If it happened in the past, it
Right.
stayed in the past, there's nothing that I can do about it. And so it's just like why I'm so big on advocating on voice. Like I have to tell my
Hmm.
story. So even now in moments like this, my mother is still living, right? And it's just like
Right.
I'm telling my story. And this is not to slight you. This is not to
Right.
slight you. This is not to speak negatively of you, but this is also to give voice to my story and my experience and what made me the woman that I am. And that's a part of my story. So, yes, I'm acknowledging the fact that you were a child, that yes, you are my mother, but you are also your own human being. And that's what I had to
Right.
learn too, is that like they have their own assignment outside of me being their child. They have their own
Right.
assignment. Right. And I have to give grace and compassion to that. And I can also say that in the midst of doing your best, there was pain. And these were the things
Yes.
that I experienced. And these are the things that I'm growing through. And I don't expect you to be the person to help me heal. And that was one of the things I had to learn. I'm like, the only way that you're going to heal through your mother wounds and your father wounds is when you heal the relationship with China. Not healing the
Yes.
relationship with your father, not healing the relationship with your mother, because I can't control y'all. I can't control
No.
you. I can't change you, right? I can't heal you
Hmm.
for you. So all
Yeah.
I can do, all
Yeah.
I can do is love me, learn what my
Yes.
boundaries are going to be and be in relationship with you, advocate for myself, and move forward. And I let God do the rest. Because China had to take her hand off it. Because when I was like, well, you need to go to therapy with me. No, you don't. You ain't got to go.
Yeah.
I'll go by myself.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that is it, right? Giving our parents grace. There are certain things that I wouldn't do because I'm genetically predisposed to addiction.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
goes way back. But when we're figuring it out for ourselves, we forget that these people didn't know better.
Hmm.
And they were trying to heal themselves. And imagine doing everything that you can, and you have a child telling you that you failed at everything you did, when only thing you did on a day-to-day basis was to get up and do the best you could with what you had.
Mm.
I
Yes.
think about it as you're talking. One of the most beautiful things about healing yourself is,
Hmm.
and coming back to you, is giving yourself grace. But it
Hmm.
also allows you to give other people grace, because the one thing that we cannot do
Hmm.
is judge ourselves by our intentions and judge
Hmm.
other people by their actions.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? In our initial conversation, you talked about remothering yourself and refathering yourself. What was the hardest part of that?
I think one of the hardest things was learning to trust myself. um,
Mm,
Learning to trust myself, because I really feel like when you've experienced those type of wounds from the people who were like supposed to be your first source of love and safety, you subconsciously question if you're worthy of love at all. So remothering myself meant learning to soften, to receive, to be kind to myself in ways I was never before. And it really meant like sitting with the discomfort of not always having the answers, yet still nurturing myself, right? Anyway,
right.
because I was definitely somebody that was like, I need answers. I need 1 + 1 to always equal 2. Because if it
Yeah.
doesn't, I can't, that's not a good answer for me. I don't do
Yeah.
well in
Yeah.
the gray, right?
Yeah.
And so really, sitting with my inner child and saying, I see you, like I love you. Like you don't have to be perfect to be held. You don't have to be one way in order for you to be receive love. You don't have to be anything other than what you are to be loved.
Right.
And actually you are love alone. And so that was something. And with my father, with reparenting myself as it pertained to that, it was really just like stability and protection and
Hmm.
trust, and reminding myself that I didn't have to be in survival mode all the time. You can
Right.
relax, you can relinquish that. I can trust myself to make good decisions. I deserve consistency. I didn't
Hmm.
have to prove my worth to be chosen. There were moments of like very, very deep grief, and moments where I questioned if I would ever really feel whole. There was always
Right.
this this something that I felt like I was going to constantly have to fill up, or somebody was going to have to come and fill it up for me. But once I really moved through those moments and decided that I choose myself over and over and over and over and over again. Like that is how I got to this, China. And I fall short. Like I'm not gonna say that I get
Right.
it right all the time, right? There are moments where I'm just like, okay, you forgot about you again. You weren't trusting yourself when your intuition was clearly saying red flag, don't go that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Dead
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
you know, um,
Baby, we be out here collecting red flags like they
okay,
are. like they souvenirs. So, no, fool, a red flag. I'm like, you sure it ain't purple, girl? That look deep
Girl, that
purple.
makes
Like,
it in.
no,
Right.
that's
That's like,
fuchsia. You know,
yes,
that's
right.
that's that
Make
that's
all
that
kinds of
matte
sense.
red.
Right. And one thing actually I want to read because I came across it today, which really
Okay.
resonated with me. This sister
Okay.
said, as it related to one of the things I kind of think that was like helping me with the hardest part of it was the people that I chose in my relationships, right? Like those were the
Mm.
pinpoints that were just like, you ain't done healing the mother wound or the father wound because of the partners that you choose. And she was saying that you don't want them, you want them to want you because your abandonment wounds from childhood made you hyper fixated on being chosen. And I was like,
Listen, I need you to get all out my business,
right.
right?
I said, I'm dead. I'm on the flat
I,
line.
you all in my business right now.
Yeah,
But
yes, yes.
that is true because
Yes.
one of the things that you don't realize when you have mother and father wounds, you realize that you want to be chosen because you feel like the people who should have chose you did not choose you. You want to be with someone who protects you because you feel like the people who were supposed to protect you didn't. The people that were supposed to teach you so many things and to nurture you, they didn't. So you find yourself walking around empty, just waiting for anybody and anything to fill these unfillable voids. It's funny that you say, I choose me, because when I created my company, Renew Perspective Coaching, I have a shirt inside of my office that says, I choose me.
Yeah.
And all my friends bought that shirt because it was just a matter of choosing yourself over and over and over. And it was a reminder because if I'm choosing you and
Mm-hmm.
you choosing you,
Mm-hmm.
then no one is choosing me. Then what happens is I'm going to penalize you for not choosing me
Mm-hmm.
because what you have done is add to this wound that's not healed. I feel like I'm being taken for granted. Now I feel again like I'm fighting for your love. Now
Now
I
it's
feel like
true.
I'm overcompensating. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
now your inability to show up and choose me adds to the fact that I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
when in reality, you've been good enough the whole time. You just didn't know it.
Yes.
Viola Davis, I don't know if you read her book, Finding
Yes, I
Me.
did. Yes, I did. Yes.
She is the first person that had me on the treadmill crying.
Child.
Okay. Viola, if you listening,
Yes.
you had me
Yes.
on the treadmill
Yes.
crying. Okay. But she had me on the treadmill crying because I was listening to the audiobook.
Yes.
And for the first time,
Yeah.
the little girl in me was not a victim. The
Mm,
little girl in me was a survivor. And
mm,
she fought for me so that the teenager in me could exist. So where I was like, oh my God, I need to heal you. They're like, nah, you don't need to heal us. We got you to where you are. You know what I'm saying? I could just imagine sitting with that, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, having to sit with that and remothering yourself. You and I talked briefly about external validation
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because
Right
we
back.
all want validation. How do you work through the need for external validation?
Yeah. I think one of the first things is just I remind myself that whatever it is that you're seeking is already within you. And I think my biggest thing is just really like myself, my clients, because all of it is just a reflection. I say that all the time. Like anything that I'm telling you is not something that I haven't told myself 100 times to be able to get to where I am or as I am working through it, but being gentle with myself. Because
Right.
sometimes it's just you want to be like, you yelling at yourself like a football coach. And it's just, I don't need that type of love. I need you to be gentle
Yeah.
with me. And because if you've been spending your whole life looking for love and validation and approval outside of yourself, that means at some point you have to realize that like you've been internalizing so many different voices that you don't even know which one is yours. And so it's just, so how do we start dropping off the voices that don't even belong here? Like how do we
Right.
get to the source? How do we get to
Mm-hmm.
you? How do we get to God? Because that's the image, right? Like that, we ain't talking about nobody else's, but we talking about the image, and he created you. And how special are you, right?
You.
How special
Mm-hmm.
are you? And recognizing that anything that happened, especially as children, wasn't your fault, right? And then as we get older and we start making choices, it's just, so how do we start taking accountability and responsibility for our lives? That's
Right.
going to be the biggest thing that's going to take us out of exactly what you just said, is being a victim. I'm in co-creation with God in this universe. So whatever it is that I experience, I have choice in. I don't have to do this. I
Right.
don't have to be in relationship with you. I don't got to go over there, right? Or you be like,
Right.
who all over there? I need to know who all over
Who all
there.
over
Okay.
there? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who all over there?
All
And
over there.
when I ask you that,
Yes.
I'm not
You
coming.
I'm not coming. Because if you don't tell me, then I'm really not coming. So it's just, you know, recognizing recognizing the different things. So when I talked about, you know, craving love, so it's just if I'm craving love is because I've given so much outside of me and I've been waiting to be poured into. So how can I start pouring that love back into myself? How can I start making love to me? Like in this concept of, you know, people just like self-love is about nails, and no, it is not.
No, it's
Self-love
not.
is a divine practice of every day making sure that all the things that are in alignment with choosing me. Like, am I making choices that really show China that I love myself? Am I eating
Mhm.
things that are in alignment that show me that I love myself? Or am I using my body as a dumping ground for fast foods and things that don't allow? Or am I sleeping with people that are not in alignment with me and that I know don't love me and don't treat me well? Is that love? Is that how I love myself? If we're seeking safety, is because a part of you has always been asking to be held. So how can I start holding me? How can I start protecting myself? What does that look like for me? If I've
Right.
been seeking validation, it's because my spirit has been craving acknowledgement, but for me first. So the truth is, when
Right.
it comes to external validation, will never be enough. It will never fill the
No.
spaces that our own love, that our own trust, and that our own acceptance will not occupy. So it's like all the likes on Instagram and all the people telling you that you're so great and all those different things. It does not matter until you truly feel like that for yourself. People will tell me, "Oh, you're beautiful. You're gonna do amazing things." I didn't believe any of those things about me, so it
Right.
would be fleeting. It would be fleeting. In
Right.
no moment, it would fill me up. Oh, that feels so great to hear. But when I got back home and I sat with myself, and if I didn't truly feel like that, I would question all of it. So it's just like asking ourselves, like, what do I believe I need from others that I haven't given myself? How can I begin to speak to myself with love that I've been waiting to hear? You know, when they're just like, well, speak to
Mhm.
yourself in the way that your best friend would, or you would speak to your best friend. If why would I not? Because I'm my first best friend. I'm my first love of
Right.
my life.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
So why do I not want to treat me with the utmost respect, with the utmost care? That's important. And what would shift in my life if I started treating myself like someone that I deeply cherish? That I
That's
deeply,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And honestly, China, I think a lot of people struggle with that because we feel like we've been taught it's selfish to put yourself first. It's selfish to take care of yourself. But there are
Mhm.
so many times that we wouldn't recognize love, even if it came and gave us everything, because we don't love ourselves enough to know that we're deserving of it. So
Mhm.
I have spent time
Yeah.
loving people who never felt lovable, no matter what I did. And what happens is the goalposts move because they don't know what it looks like. So they're like, okay, well, if you do this, this feel good for now, but that was close, but that ain't it. So when you think about it in reference to yourself, you think
Mhm.
of, if I give myself this, then I have set a standard by which I
Yeah.
want to be loved. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm depending on you to feel me. I'm depending on you to add to
Add.
this love, this deep found love that I already have for myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that that work is good.
Because I think in conjunction with what you just said, because it allows you to see that I was never incomplete. I was never incomplete. I was never missing
Hmm.
anything. And I was always my own home. And the sooner that we start anchoring ourselves in that truth, the sooner we will realize that we were never lost and that we were just searching for ourselves all along, not somebody else to love us and to make us feel this way. And you was really just speaking to my relationships just now when you was all up in my business like that. Because that's what happens, right? I've had amazing people come into my life who wanted to love me, and I'm just like, that looks a little too safe over there. You know, it's a
Right,
little
right, right,
boring.
right.
And then somebody who is all of the same reflection of traumas, you know, not emotionally available and all these different things. I'm like, I want to love you. Let me heal you to life, right? Let me give you all of this love. And it's just, ain't nobody
Girl,
asked
no, ma'am. No,
you.
no, ma'am. We can't.
Get back.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah, no,
But you
man.
don't. But when you're in the thick of it,
Yeah.
you don't realize it. When you're in the thick of it, you
Because
don't
what you think
realize
you're
that.
doing, sorry, I'm comfortable, but I think
Yeah.
what you think you're doing when you're in the thick of it is you're doing what you would want somebody else to have done for you.
No, that
Yeah.
is it. To the people that are listening, this is really good. And I know that this is going to resonate with someone. You cannot give anybody what you have not given yourself.
Mhm.
Because what'll happen is you're going to give everything to someone who doesn't feel like they're lovable, or someone is going to come along that is destined for you,
Mhm.
that wants to love you, and
Mhm.
you're not going to feel lovable. So if you do nothing else,
Yes.
figure out how
Yes.
to come home to you, how to love you, how to pour into you. And
Yes.
then that way, when it shows up, you're not so hungry for it. You're not
Mhm.
starving for it. So you can actually enjoy it. Because what happens is if you go to a restaurant and you're hungry, you don't even taste the food.
Yes.
You eat it so fast you don't even
Write that
taste it.
thing
And
down.
that happens in relationships. So if you get into a relationship and someone is giving you what you've never had, you don't even get to enjoy the relationship because you need more and more and more and more of it. But if you're already loving yourself
Yeah.
and someone comes in and then they're adding to that, you're able to ease into it and you're
Mhm.
able to enjoy the moment because now you're not craving them. Now they're just adding to what you already have.
Mhm. Mhm. That part.
You
Yep.
all in my business in this podcast. In our pre-conversation, we talked
Yeah.
about how in 2020 you ended a relationship. In 2020,
Yeah.
like your personal transformation year, just kind of walk me through that.
Yeah. 2020 was absolutely a turning point for me. Like you said, I
Mm-hmm.
ended that relationship. I was setting boundaries with my mother. At that point, we weren't even on talking terms. I had got back into therapy, and I had been in that relationship for almost 4 years. I realized that the person that I was with was not nice to me. I was just like,
Mm,
why would you continue to stay in this space, right? I was like, you're still seeking love, you're still seeking validation, and you're still allowing yourself to be in spaces where people can't even really hold you. Like you're in relationship where
mm,
you're requiring yourself to shrink, where you're ignoring the whispers of your own intuition, where you're being made to feel responsible for other people's healing while absolutely neglecting your own. We were actually living together at that time. One day we got into a really big argument, went to stay with my aunt for a week or two, and I got an Airbnb and I was just like, what are we going to do?
right,
What is about to happen at this juncture in your life? Because you can't continue in this way. I
right.
went out of an apartment and I moved in, and that was the first time that I had lived alone in probably almost 4 years. And so it was again choosing myself. And it was obviously uncomfortable, like it hurt, it was
Mm,
walking away from what was familiar, but I was just like, I've reached a breaking point. I can't keep reliving the same wounds, the same patterns, the same cycles that generations before me had endured. Why would you want to continue to navigate your life in this dysfunction, right? And wearing this
right,
mask and absorbing other people's pain and making yourself small to keep the peace and silencing yourself. Like I was literally reliving each of my generations in this relationship. And I was just like, all
mm,
of this is at the expense of your well-being. And
right.
this is self-abandonment. That's what I realized. I was like, you're abandoning yourself. Like you are
Yeah,
betraying you, regardless of what this other individual is doing. What is China doing to herself? Right. And so that was my first time of really recognizing that I'm allowed to choose differently. You don't have to
yes,
stay. I don't care how long it's been. Father, mother, relationship, friendship, you don't got to stay nowhere that it is no longer a safe space, a loving space, a space that is empowering you to grow. Like we're not staying in relationships out of obligation. And love
no,
does not require you to self-sacrifice or to silence yourself. And if somebody is taking your boundaries as an act of punishment, then they don't understand what it requires to be in relationship with you, because that's not what it is. This is self-preservation. So I had to make the
right.
hard choice of walking away from that relationship, of setting boundaries with my and really sit with myself and asking myself, like, what do you actually need? And that was the most liberating space that and I talk about this space all the time because it was truly a transformational space for me. Like
Right.
it was my sacred garden. I came home every day from work happy to be home because I knew there
Right.
was nobody in there. Nobody was in there but me. It was left the
Hmm.
way that I left it. I love baths. You know,
Yes.
I
Yes.
was taking my baths. I was walking around my house naked. I was
Yeah.
enjoying my freedom, right? I was enjoying my
Right.
freedom. I was enjoying my relationship with myself. And that was the biggest thing. It was just like, you don't really have a relationship with you because you run away from yourself every time that you get with yourself. You
Yeah.
start getting You start trying to get into a relationship with somebody else. You start circling the block back to somebody from the past that you don't need to be talking to. So what does it look like to be like, no, this really does stop with me? And I really need to learn how to love myself in a way that I was never taught. I need to learn how to choose myself without feeling guilty about it. I need to be able to
Right.
build a life that reflects my truth instead of somebody else's expectation. And so that was really a space of I choose me. I choose me.
Yeah.
And I feel good about choosing me. And I did. I was, and I also have had my own journey as it pertains to like alcohol. And so like at that time I was like, there's no
Right.
alcohol in my house. Right. Like
Right.
keeping no alcohol in here. I did so much cooking and exploring. I live right near the water. I was going out there. I was really tapping into my sound healing. Like it was a rebirth. That space was a rebirth for me.
And I think that is bold
Yeah.
because but that's a good boldness.
Mhm.
It's just taking time to understand. I tell my clients all the time that are single, and they're like, what am I supposed to do while I'm single? Get on TikTok and find you some recipes. What do you
Okay.
like to eat? And a lot
Mhm.
of people don't know. It's almost like in relationships, we put ourselves on a potter's wheel, and whatever this person molds us into is what we are. So get off the potter's wheel. You've been eating chicken every night. Do you even like chicken? Do you like clubbing? Do you like having alcohol in the house? Whatever it is you've done to accommodate this relationship, ask yourself, is this what I really want to do anyway? And a lot
Mhm.
of times you'll find that it's not, but we do that because you've been abandoned so many times. You'll do whatever you have to do to keep the peace. You'll do whatever you have to do to go along, to get along, and
Yeah.
not realizing that you're in dangerous territory.
Yes.
One of the most amazing things I think that you've done is move to Bali. If this is your first time encountering me, Bali is my sacred space.
Mm.
It is the place where in 2019, I met me.
Yeah.
And last year I went back and I went to the water temples. And
Mhm.
as I was going through each water temple, it was as though I encountered God for the first time. What made you choose Bali?
So honestly, Bali chose me.
Okay.
I said there was so many different things I started. I think I started traveling very heavily in like 2018. Just going to
Mhm.
Amsterdam, went to different parts of the Caribbean, Barbados, like all these different places. And I was like, and I love traveling. You know how we are when we travel. I'm like, oh, I think I could really live here, y'all. I think I
Every
could.
listen, after 2 days, I could live
Yeah,
here.
I can live here. Yep,
Yeah.
I can live here. And so I just started seeing so many like TV shows or books that were
Mhm.
talking about Bali and the spiritual essence. And of course, I saw Eat,
Mhm.
Pray, Love, right?
Yeah.
Self discovery. So that was like very moving. And then there was this show that was on Netflix that was showing like different properties for like different expense levels and all these different things. And they were in Bali and just seeing the way that they connected to the people and the land. I was just like, I want to go to Bali one day. I was on the road to becoming a licensed therapist before I moved to Bali,
Okay.
literally a test away from being licensed. I had
Mhm.
been in the field for 10 years and I was burnt out during COVID. I was
Mhm.
an essential worker. So I was still essentially employed and showing up
Right.
at the workplace and showing up at the
You said an
workplace.
essential employee. Yes.
Okay. But I was just like being all the things that I am, especially creatively, I felt like I was stifled. And I've always said, I'm not an office girl, but the girl was in the office. And I was
Right.
trying so many different ways to make it creative. So my job knew I got certified in yoga. I went to Amsterdam. I got introduced to sound healing. I brought that back. I brought that modality into my sessions with my clients. I was doing art therapy. I was like, somehow, some way, we're gonna make this
Right.
creative. But I was just like, but what about China? How is she showing up as an artist outside of just being a source for somebody else? And I didn't have
Right.
an answer for that. And at the time, there were no real spaces because it was COVID for me to do so. And I
Mhm.
was just like, I'm tired. I'm showing up at the job, but I ain't showing up at the job. There was this Black woman that I was following on Instagram, and she was showing that she was in Peru for a yoga teacher training. She was like, they're having a scholarship, women of color in Bali. And I was like, no, they not. So I signed up for it. I was like, I'm gonna sign up. I don't know what's about to happen. It's for a month. I can get a month off. I had so much
Mhm.
PTO at my job. Like, yeah, I got PTO. Yeah, plug me in. And so I was like, I didn't know if I was gonna get it, but I signed up and then I got it. And then I was just like, now am I
Right.
going up for a month or am I leaving? Because it was for me, it was so empowering because I just started to feel like it was a surge of like Black women living abroad. And I was like, we're living
Yes.
abroad. Like we get to do this. This is happening.
Listen, are everywhere. free where?
I was just like, okay, this is possible for me. Before it felt like a other people thing, right? We didn't have
Mhm,
access to that, but it was just like, no, we can go. Okay, we going. So it was just a process kind of in and am I going? Am I staying? Am I staying? Am I going? All around the world. And then I got to Bali and I was like, I'm singing again. I'm stretching. Ooh, okay. Amen.
mhm,
I'm singing again. I'm
mhm.
stretching all the things. And I'm not going home.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even about, I'm not going home. Had to call my job. Hey, y'all, I ain't even going to make it back. And the crazy with my job was my supervisor, he was like, this is on brand for you. Right. He was just
Mhm.
like, if I saw this for anybody, I would definitely see it. And it was so much love and well wishes. And if you ever come back to the
Right.
States, back. So I was so
Mhm.
grateful for that because at that moment was like, this is not about changing location. This is about changing
Right.
my life, right? This is
Yes.
really about changing my life. It's about trust. It's about surrender. And it's about
Mhm.
reclamation. I was like, welcome home, little Black girl. Because for the first time,
Mm.
I allow myself to dream beyond my circumstances. I stopped making
Right.
decisions from a place of fear and started making them from a place of faith. Like I didn't have no plan.
Mhm.
I didn't have no guarantees. I didn't have $15,000 in the bank account that was like, girl, you can quit your job and go ahead and live abroad. Like none of that
Yes.
was there, right? Other than a deep, unshakable knowing that I was meant for more and that God will provide. That was what I was leaning on. Like people was like, how you gonna do it? I don't know yet, but God is
I
gonna figure something out for me. And so Bali truly taught me surrender. Like trust that I don't have any control over every outcome, but I know that I will be supported. So that I
yes.
can trust to let go of what no longer serving me. I can make space for what is meant for me to have in my life. And it really forced me into a place of like deep self-discovery because I was living with my mother, living with my godmother. I was always in search of a home. Like before that, I was
Right.
like, moving to New York. I'm gonna move to LA. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that because my life would be so much better there. And it's just, girl, wherever you go, you will be right there. So it don't
Yes.
matter where you go in the world. If you don't really sit down and take the time to heal and do the work for
Mhm.
China, then you're just running from you. So it was just like, so let's get to know her. Let's leave everything behind. At this time, you are only left with yourself. No distractions, no roles to play, no external noise, just me,
Yep.
my spirit, and my truth that I could not avoid anymore. Like it was just like, it's here. So Bali really showed me how to live intentionally and fully and in alignment. And it reminded me that healing doesn't have to be heavy all the time. Sometimes
Right.
it's in the joy, it's in the
Mhm.
slowness, it's in the
Yeah.
beauty of a simple moment. And it taught me that, and not even taught, but it reminded me about preserving my peace and not something
Mhm.
that I have to chase. Like you get to preserve it. You don't got to chase to kind of create some barrier, some border. Like you just get to be in it.
I heard about it from Eat, Pray, Love. When I first went, it was the year I decided I was going to fall in love with me.
Mm,
I was going to purposely give myself everything I have freely given everyone else. And I was going to do that for myself. That's how Bali resonated with me. There are so many amazing things that you have been able to teach yourself and you have been able to guide yourself through. And the most beautiful part is you guiding yourself back to you. One of the things that you have is brave space coaching.
yeah.
I know you talked about the brave space earlier, but what is that like? Tell people how they can find you.
Brave Space Coaching is created as an invitation, a call to step into your most radical, self honoring, deep inner work, and most authentic expression. It's not about setting goals or creating new habits, but about unlearning, uncovering, and remembering who you are at your core. Like I go for that because I'm just like, we're like, I'm finding myself. You don't have to find what's already there. We are literally
Mhm,
remembering the thing. When someone works with me, they can definitely expect a space where they feel seen and not judged.
mhm.
We move through all the limiting beliefs, the self doubt, the old narratives with compassion, no shame. You will be held accountable, but
Right.
gently. We ain't doing no tough love over here. I'm not over here to make you feel bad about yourself and your decisions. But we definitely know that growth requires us to be stretched, but definitely in a way that feels safe and aligned and not forceful and also guided and empowered.
Mhm.
Like my role is not to give you all the answers. It is not to heal you, but it's to help you hear your own voice clearly and to trust yourself more fully. So anybody that is looking to step into their truth and release what no longer aligns, navigate blockages when they feel, create routines and rituals, and reconnecting with their own joy and their purpose, just really like the self-reclamation. I'm reclaiming myself. I'm reclaiming myself, remembering who I am. Before I knew me, I was my home. That was it. And so to work with me, so you can visit me on my website, www.preservingpeace.org, and we will set up and we'll have a consultation for each client. I'm very what they call person centered, not all the same because everybody is different. And like we said
No, it's
before,
not. Right.
everything does not work for everyone. So we
Right.
meet for consultation, we talk about what it is that you need. I create a whole plan of what our duration looks like, 3 months, 6 months. And I start there. I don't want us to push for a year if that's not what you need, right? Let's see
Right.
what we can do in these increments because ultimately this is an investment into self. And that's what I say with any of my offerings. It is always an investment into you. You ain't just paying me your money. You're taking time to invest into you. So how committed are you to you? Because if you're not committed to you first, then you're not ready to work with me.
Listen, that's it. I think that people have to know, even if you don't know what you need, you have to know that you're ready.
Yes.
You don't have to know what you need. You don't have to know what it looks like. You just have to know you're ready. Like you have this burning and inkling that something within you needs to change for you. Listen, do not go to China's website unless you know that you're ready,
Yeah.
that you're ready to do the work because it does require work. This interview has been dope. It has been amazing. I'd like for you to
Yeah.
tell us one thing that you're grateful for.
Okay.
Then the people that are listening right now, something that they could do today that would move them closer to finding home within themselves.
One thing that I'm grateful for in this moment is life. I just celebrated my 33rd, March 13th. So I am grateful for my life. And one thing that I can say to the beautiful listeners in moving forward is know that whatever it is that you are deserving of it, and there's nothing that you can't have. And the moment that you lean into that belief, the world will open up to you and you'll know exactly what it is that you're supposed to do.
I love it. China, it has been an absolute pleasure. Listen, you my new friend, okay? You don't know it yet, you my new friend. But it has been an absolute pleasure to interview you because it has been thought provoking for me. Because even as someone who navigates this area, it's amazing when someone taps into something that resonates with you. I am deeply appreciative of the reminder that I have to be home to me.
Mhm.
That is powerful. We're going to pray. I'm going to ask you to pray us out.
Father God, we just thank you right now. We just want to give multiple thank yous. We can't even thank you enough, Father God. One, I just want to thank you for Sister Stephanie and thank you for giving her the vision, Father God, and the gift for being able to create this platform for women to be able to come on here and to share our stories, Father God. We just thank you for her being able to follow her mission and her purpose and her assignment that was given from you, Father God. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We thank you for all it is that you do. We thank you for all it is that you've done. We thank you for all it is that you will continue to do. We ask that you continue to guide us, protect us, and cover us as we continue on this journey and remind us that it is always you that is really doing the work, Father God. We are just simply the vessel. We love you and we give thanks and praises. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you
Mhm.
guys for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.